The women's lead semi-final took place earlier today, and much like within the bouldering, where we saw many women topping problems, within the women's lead, we saw a lot of competitors get higher up the wall and more frequently than we did within the men's lead semi-finals yesterday. Even from early on within the competition, it seemed like a top was possible, possibly due to the more endurance style of the route compared to the more cruxy style of the men's route yesterday. The white and blue section low down seemed relatively steady, leading to a steeper section on pink pockets. This made way to a blue set of volumes, which were powerful and featured an awkward clip that saw a few competitors becoming unstuck. Above that, there was a technical section on yellow volumes and black crimps, leading to that final stopper move to a jug. Leading into the lead semi-finals, we had our eye on several things, and the first was Erin McNeice. Erin qualified the bouldering semi-finals in 10th place, so needed to gain ground in the lead. The question was, could she do it? The next was whether the lead specialists, such as Japan's Ai Mori or Korea's Cheon So, could make up the ground from what was fundamentally a disappointing bouldering round. Whilst they had a lot of ground to make up, their abilities on the lead wall are indeed exceptional, but it was all to play for. And on the flip side of that, it was the question of which boulderers were going to up the ante. Oceana Mackenzie of Australia impressed within the bouldering, but could she maintain it on the lead? And then there was the likes of Miho Nanaka from Japan and Natalia Grossman from America. Could they manage to get to that standard in the lead that would see them qualifying in those top 8 places? We didn't have to wait long before Erin McNeice was out on the mats as the second competitor of the day. And much like Hamish MacArthur in the men's lead semi-finals yesterday, she really showed how it was done. She made her way through that initial easier section into the pink pockets, where she performed an utterly incredible one-arm lock-off chalk-up. Maybe not the wisest of moves at the time, but it didn't seem to stop her or halt her progress throughout that blue section on volumes, which she absolutely cranked through. She then made it into the technical sequence above before falling at a solid high point. Now the question was, with 18 other higher ranked competitors due to come out after her, was her performance going to be good enough to secure a place within the final? We really weren't sure. In fact, if anything, it looked statistically doubtful that she would make it in, with so many strong names and lead specialists to come out after her. But as proved yesterday by Hamish MacArthur qualifying for the finals, anything can happen, and it did. Australia's Oceana Mackenzie came out shortly afterwards, and after a solid performance in the bouldering, needed to hang on in there throughout the lead for long enough to qualify, which she did 1 point ahead of Erin McNeice. Now, whilst we were undoubtedly rooting for Oceana, it was great to see her in the bouldering yesterday. From a British perspective, we weren't sure how much that 1 point would count against Erin later on. Bear in mind, you have to be within that top 8 to qualify for the finals. That 1 point could have pushed Erin down to 9th. Whilst Cheon So from Korea had a lot of ground to make up, she made up that ground by absolutely styling the lead. She looked cool and composed throughout, kind of resting her way through the moves that we'd previously seen people power their way through. However, she didn't get high enough to guarantee that place in the final. In fact, she was just 1 place below Britain's Erin McNeice. So it was all to play for with the people who were coming out. But the thing is, we'd need a massive upset and, dare I say it, a shock for one of those competitors to fall off earlier. The tension was mounting as each person came out. But as Oriane Botone came on stage, she did so to rapturous applause. It very much felt like she was using this to her advantage, with the support of the French audience. And she had reason to feel positive too. Finishing in 2nd place within the bouldering, she had a solid score coming into the lead. But lead is not by any means her speciality. But she made it through far enough to qualify for the finals in a solid position. The first really big name to look like they were coming into some serious trouble was Tokyo 2020 silver medalist Japan's Miho Nonaka. Miho is a consistent performer on the World Cup circuit and is someone that you'd expect to see at the business end of any competition she enters. But after a disappointing bouldering round, or at least a disappointing bouldering round by the standards of Miho Nonaka, she had a lot to make up within the lead. She then took a fall at the top of the blue section, substantially further down than we'd expected her to, which landed her one place behind Cheon-seo of Korea. Now this meant that even more people needed to do badly in order for Miho to get into the finals. Miho falling was bittersweet, as her fall at the height she was at meant that Erin McNeice was through to the Olympic finals. The surprises didn't stop there, with USA athlete Natalia Grossman taking a shock fall quite low down after a route reading error. This really did come as a surprise, as she was someone we'd anticipated making it into the finals, and she'd had a strong enough round in the bouldering to put her in a good position for today. When Jessica Pilz stepped onto the wall, she looked immediately at home. This is an environment she is very, very familiar with, training at the legendary Innsbruck wall in Austria. The display she put on was probably one of the most inspiring of the day. Not only did she make it high up, making it look casual throughout the first part, she then dug deep, fighting her way past Cheon-seo's high point to reach a new one before falling. When interviewed afterwards, she apparently even managed a sneak peek at the leaderboard from within a rest earlier down the route, so knew she'd qualified, thus was able to give it absolutely everything higher up the route, just for fun. USA's Brooke Raboutou made it high up the wall and looked like she could go higher before dry firing off a hold. But it didn't matter that she didn't make it any higher, as she had qualified long before. Mori knew she had to do well within the lead semi-finals today, but this is very much an environment that she is familiar with and doing exceptionally well with. When it comes to the last 8 World Cups and World Championships that she has taken part in, she has only ever come first or second. And she seemed to cruise through the lower section, then the middle section, and then the upper section, before landing herself on the 2 crimps before that final stopper move to the jug. And she made the move but didn't quite catch the jug, so a new high point. This secured her a place within the finals and led on to the final competitor of the day, Janja Garnbret. Sitting in front of the screen watching this is stressful enough, let alone the pressure that the competitors must feel. And there is nobody who has more pressure on their shoulders than Janja Garnbret because of the high expectations that we have of her. As we said yesterday, lead climbing is different to bouldering because of the fact you only get one go. A single foot slip like the one that Alex Megos or Tomoa Narasaki had yesterday could happen to Janja. But she climbed slowly and steadily but confidently throughout that lower section and just looked super solid throughout. There was no accidents or mistakes going to happen to Janja today. In fact, the only move that she faltered on was the top move, the final one to the jug, and it would have been great to see her catch it, and she came so close but didn't quite. But it didn't matter. She'd not only qualified for the Olympic finals, she had qualified in first place, exactly where you'd expect her to be and exactly where she was. Special mention for Great Britain's Molly Thompson-Smith, who finished the lead semi-finals in 9th place and 19th overall. Here are your Olympic finalists. In first place, Slovenia's Janja Garnbret. In second place, Austria's Jessica Pilz. In third place, USA's Brooke Raboutou. In fourth place, Japan's Ai Mori. In fifth place, France's Oriane Bertone. In sixth place, Australia's Oceana Mackenzie. In seventh place, Great Britain's Erin McNeice. And in eighth place, Korea's Cheon-seo. UKC editor Natalie Berry has been at the venue in Paris, and here's what she had to say from the day.
So we have 3 Brits in the Boulder and lead finals, it's crazy. Today, Erin McNeice qualified for the women's boulder and lead final, joining Toby Roberts and Hamish MacArthur, who qualified yesterday. The lead route today was a completely different style to yesterday's. It was very sustained. The route setters said there were no distinct cruxes on the route, and most of the climbers seemed to fall off because they were pumped rather than because of a hard move or a slip. There was a tricky clip halfway up, but otherwise, yeah, very different style, more endurance-based and sustained. Erin was out early on and set a really good high point up on the head wall. It wasn't clear at the time whether she'd done enough to qualify, but when I spoke to her afterwards, she said, "Oh, I felt like I could have done a bit more. I just misjudged the angle of a hold on the volume. She just kind of popped off. She felt she had more in her." And when I asked her, "Is there anything that you're learning from each round in the Olympic experience?" she said, "Oh yeah, that each time I come out, I'm sort of picking up on tiny little things that I can improve each time. But the main thing that she's trying to overcome is having really high expectations for herself, which you can see, like, she's doing so well, she just wants to keep going better and better." After a very nervy wait, Erin eventually qualified in 7th place. And when I spoke to GB climbing coach Rachel Carr yesterday, she said that they knew that all of the athletes in the GB team could potentially make finals, but it was just a matter of keeping their heads together and performing well on the world's biggest sporting stage, and to have 3 of them do that, it's so impressive. Molly Thompson-Smith put in a really good performance. She looked so smooth, so controlled on the route, like probably one of the most comfortable on the route, I'd say. And she reached just below Erin and finished in 19th overall. And when I spoke to her afterwards, she said she was really happy with her climb. She felt maybe she could have done a bit more, but she's just so proud of herself to even make the Olympics, and she's just trying to make the most of the experience. Just after she climbed, she got to have a family moment where the screen shows members of her family who aren't at the event, but you can all like interact with her, and she was just loving sharing that experience with her friends and family from abroad. So yeah, just really happy for her. She seemed really excited to be there, and I asked her if she's going to get the Olympic rings tattoo, and she said yeah, she's going to get it in the Olympic Village. There's apparently a tattoo artist, a resident tattoo artist in the Olympic Village, so yeah, she's just making the most of her time here. It was also really nice to see Molly celebrating Erin's qualification at the end of the round. The two hugged, and Erin's mum was in tears, Erin was in tears, everyone was in tears. Just a really emotional scene. I think Erin can't quite believe what she's achieved, but I think everyone else around her knew that she was more than capable of it. And yeah, she should have huge confidence going into the final. There's all to play for. I think the silver and bronze medal in particular are very open. I think most people would probably place bets on Janja Garnbret to win gold again, but other than that, let's see what happens over the next 2 days. I can't wait to watch. Speaking of Janja Garnbret, who almost topped the route and qualified in 1st place for finals, in the media zone afterwards, her coach Roman was saying that she's stronger than ever, both physically and mentally, so I think she'll be looking to put on a good show in the finals.
So now the semi-finals are over, all of those scores are reset to 0. And tomorrow we have the men's final, which features the lead and boulder on the same day, with the bouldering in the morning and the lead in the afternoon. UKC editor Zar White takes a look at some of the contenders.
Never before have we seen a debut season like Sorato Anraku's. It's completely inaccurate to describe Boulder as a weakness for Sorato, since he came in the top 5 at 4 of the 6 Boulder World Cups he competed in, and won the overall World Cup series. It's only the fact that he won 3 lead World Cups, came 3rd in another, and finished no lower than 6th throughout the entire season, which he also won of course, that his bouldering ability appears comparatively weaker, by the most tenuous of margins. Living legend Jakob Schubert himself seemed more excited about watching Sorato climb than he did about winning the combined gold in Bern, saying, "He's such a good climber, and I'm kind of sad. I feel like he wasn't able to show his best today. I feel like he is the best combined climber right now. Today I had my day, but we're definitely going to see him at the Olympics." with a 2023 that will go down in history, in which he won the overall Boulder World Cup, the overall Lead World Cup, the combined sport climbing gold at the Asian Games, and the combined boulder and lead at the Asian qualifier in Jakarta. It's no wonder that Sorato Anraku is ranked by the IFSC as the very best combined boulder and lead athlete in the world, more than 1,000 points ahead of Toby Roberts in number 2. As Jakob said, Sorato is the best combined climber in the world right now, and as Jakob predicted, we will be seeing him at the Olympics. If he performs anywhere near his best, then it will be a hard job for anyone to stop him. The reigning Olympic champion, Alberto López wasn't top of many people's lists when it came to predicting who would win Olympic gold in Tokyo, and yet, when all was said and done, it was Alberto that walked home with the gold, despite finishing bottom of the pile in the bouldering round. Whilst the improved scoring system and the removal of the speed element of the competition might, at first glance, appear to push Alberto further away from the podium, Alberto has done some improving of his own, transforming his weakest discipline, bouldering, into one where he can more than hold his own. During the Olympic qualifier series, Alberto finished in the top 3 in 3 of the 6 bouldering rounds, and only once finished outside the top 6. Add to that his overall 4th place OQS finish, as well as the fact that he finished in 2nd place to Toby Roberts at the combined European qualifier in Laval, and suddenly Alberto seems like the kind of climber who, given the opportunity, might just be able to pull off something magical. He's done it before. A climber that needs no introduction, arguably the greatest of all time across all disciplines, Ondra is a climber that has already left a legacy like no other, and he's still only 31. Back in 2010, at the age of just 17, Adam became the first climber to win overall World Cups in both boulder and lead. Only one other male climber, Sorato Anraku in 2023, has achieved this since. On rock, Adam was the first climber to climb a 9B plus route, the first climber to climb a 9C route, the first climber to flash a 9A plus route, and the second climber to on-site a 9A route. He has also climbed 4 boulders at 8C plus, 3 of which were first ascents, and none of which have been repeated. On top of that, he has made the only repeat to date of Tommy Caldwell and Kevin Jorgensen's El Capitan route, the Dawn Wall, the hardest big wall route in the world. In a way, it's a shame that sport climbing at the Olympics wasn't around earlier, as Adam would no doubt have a couple of gold medals to his name if it had. Having participated in 237 IFSC comps since his youth debut in 2004, Jakob Schubert is a living legend of the comp climbing scene. Since winning his first senior gold in 2009, Jakob has won at least 1 gold medal in 11 of the 14 subsequent years. He may be one of the older athletes in Paris, but Jakob doesn't show any signs of slowing down, and his recent form should put all other competitors on notice. His 2023 was one of the most impressive all-round years of climbing there has ever been. In addition to a world-class year climbing outside on the rock, he won gold in lead at both the Villars World Cup and the Bern World Championships, as well as gold in the combined boulder and lead competition in Bern, which saw him claim the first ticket to Paris. Jakob is a climber who loves the big stage, and he always seems to be at his best when it matters most. As the final competitor out at the Tokyo Olympics, he fought his way to the top of the lead route, in doing so dragging himself from 5th place up into the bronze medal position. He was the only person to top the route, and where others had failed, he made it look pretty straightforward. This time around, he won't have the speed, in which he finished 7th out of the 7 competing finalists, holding him back.
For more daily reports, keep an eye on our YouTube channel, or for more in-depth analysis, visit ukclimbing.com.